Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my Metal Gear Rising Revengeance Foxalive run. This is the second mission, or technically the third, and we are going into the sewers and taking on a Mastiff. The end of this fight is a pain in the neck, because you have these flyers that turn up, and there's almost nothing really cool to do to these flyers outside of doing some interesting, like, if you had the air parry, you could do an air parry into a cool cut or something. Or maybe you could get a tricky launch, but they just shoot you. And every time they shoot you, you have to fight the Mastiff again, and it just gets really boring, repeatedly resetting on an enemy that's essentially just like a cardboard box that has wings. But anyhow, moving on. This is the hardest level in the game. And you might be wondering, what? How does that work? This is not the hardest level in the game. And you would be wrong. Because this enemy right here, ladies and gentlemen, completely changed my perspective on Metal Gear Rising. Because there's a fight that I did not even think was going to be that big of an issue that turned into an absolute ordeal. So the boss fight at the end of this mission, if you've played it on normal, you probably didn't notice because there's only one grad. If you played it with upgrades on Revengeance, you probably didn't notice because you killed it in 1 to 2 parries and a pincer attack. And then you used the side to stunlock its friend and killed it even quicker. But if you fight this under the restrictions I'm going to give you, this is going to be one of the most luck-based fights you'll ever do in any video game ever. And I don't say this lightly, guys. It took me 20 hours to record a fight at the end of this, and it was probably the worst 20 hours I've ever spent on any game ever. And I've spent longer than that on games, I've spent longer than that on challenges, but they weren't like this. This is different. And I can't even begin to explain it. It's madness. It's absolute madness. I'm glad I did it, but I don't recommend it. Anyhow, we're not quite there yet, and thus there is fun to be had. So we're going to proceed into the triple Raptor fight. So this monster here is probably the second worst enemy on this run, because they are designed to run away from your parries. So when you parry them, they hop away. And they have these interesting abilities where they generate these purple magnetic fields that do all kinds of shenanigans. Like, this enemy is really cool, but it feels like it's been designed for a different game. And when you put them together, bad things happen, basically. And what you're watching is not a good representation of how this fight really goes, because I get a good pattern, I do the things I need to do, and the game favours me and I win. And you might be watching it and thinking, oh wow, you look like you're a great player. I'm not, guys. It's not about skill. This fight is complete and utter lucky garbage. And this enemy, unless you can pin it against a wall, is nigh unparryable. And if they let you parry them and actually get a riposte, they gave it you. You didn't earn it. Unless you've got some crazy manipulation, that fight is just like throwing dices, and it's not fun. And I really don't like fighting those enemies at all. And I wish I could tell you I had a good time and they're really cool because they look great, I like their moves, I like the ideas of them, but any enemy in this game that actively avoids your ripostes makes Metal Gear Rising less enjoyable. The one piece of tech you can take away if you want to fight them just by combat, if you slide heavy kick them, after a couple of hits they'll fall down. The grad is the exact same. Certain enemies that move away from you, if you slide kick them with a heavy attack, they have a threshold where they fall over, and the Raptors and the grads both share this trait. And it'll come in handy later on when you want to get really aggressive. But this is a stealth sequence against some Mastiffs, and the Mastiffs are one of my favourite enemies in this game. They give people a lot of problems, and I understand why, because they're assholes. I like their tiny shoes. But I don't like the black Mastiffs, and I know that sounds really racist, but it's nothing to do with colour, it's 100% to do with statistics. I didn't actually realise there were 2 different types of Mastiffs, because when you play this game on Revengeance, you just destroy everyone. But on this run, a normal Mastiff takes 1 parry to die, a black Mastiff takes 3. And believe it or not, guys, 3 parries on a Mastiff is a problem. When they want to grab you, it's a suggestion whether or not sometimes you can get away. And I've been grabbed by these Mastiffs a lot, and like this fight here, I love this fight because it's really fair, it's really fun, and the Mastiff is a great enemy for destroying people around you. The only part with this, the part of this fight that's difficult is the Raptor that just came here. But a good idea, which I didn't do in this fight, if you leave a Mastiff alive, you can parry him and sometimes parry the Raptor and get rid of the Raptor. But I'm just going to try and pin him against a wall. At a distance, you always want to be running because if he decides to shoot you, and he does sometimes, he'll just shoot you. This move here is a big pain in the ass, but luckily that jump gave me the momentum I needed. But this enemy is essentially Monsoon. Monsoon is a boss in this game where when you try and parry him, he backs away from it. So if you pin him against a wall, you can get a riposte, but it's really awkward to do. This monster is the same. If you can manipulate them against a corner where they can't run away, you'll kill them immediately. But if you can't, it turns into this. And it's just, like, look at this. It's just not really that interesting, is it? You know? I wish it was, and maybe there's somebody that can fight this monster really, really creatively with no upgrades and no moves and everything. But I can't. So instead, I wait for a lucky parry and then I rip his little dwarf Gekko out and then I cut him into ribbons. And that's the end of a very problematic fight, and now we move into another problematic fight. So we have a bunch of standard soldiers with rocket launchers, and then another Raptor is going to turn up, but this time there's two of them. So I'm going to use the soldiers to get rid of the Raptors like that. It's the best thing you can do. The issue is, much like Ninja Gaiden and much like certain action games, one of the most powerful tools in your arsenal you cannot manually aim. So if I could aim where the riposte went, I could parry a soldier and then pivot towards the monster, but I can't. Raiden will parry the attack that hit him towards the person who was attacking. And there might be some manipulation that I don't know about, some really cool piece of tech, but I never found a way to angle it at all, and if I had, I would have killed the double grad fight a lot quicker. But destroy the Raptors as best as you can. Show them the meaning of true fox die, because we've made it more than a few minutes into the video, so I can actually say that. And now we have one of my favourite sequences in the game. And a fun fact, ladies and gentlemen, I got a glitch here that gave me a B rank. So I did this room in like 20 seconds, and the game said it took me 2.5 minutes. And it gave me a B. Oh, I don't know why. You know, it's just... Metal Gear Rising works in mysterious ways. And then this is kind of an interim fight, but I left it in because it gave me an opportunity to fight some enemies that don't just run away. And of course there is some Gekkos in here, some Dwarf Gekkos, and I'm going to engage them. They do remind me of that Pokemon though, you know, I think he's called Unknown. It's essentially a hieroglyphic like magic lens, isn't it? It's the lens of truth from Ocarina of Time if it grew arms. And that's what they give me the vibes of. That's the vibrance that it resonates in my brain with. But see, do you see sequences like that, where I suddenly start running and slashing? I don't really want to do that, but if I don't do that, I get shot. And I've said this a few times, but I'll say it again because it's worth repeating. I really think in this game, if you held Ninja Run and stood still, I think Raiden should have cut all the bullets that came his way. So you could have had a shield. Oh, here's a missile, by the way. These are interesting. Fun fact, this missile, guys, tracks you better the faster you move. So if you come out of Ninja Run and walk normally, they have a much more difficult time tracking you. And then this is the precursor to the nightmare here. This is the hardest fight in the base game by a large margin to do under these restrictions. Outside of maybe the lobby. The lobby might be harder, but that's just because it's not a fight. It's like brain damage and on an endemic level. But here we go, ladies and gentlemen, the bit you were all waiting for. The start is always the same. This guy's going to clap you, we're going to cut his barrel. Then I'm going to go for his buddy. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm going to get stuck and I'm going to go for him, so... You'll notice me doing jump combos here. The reason I'm doing jump combos is because Raiden has a tendency to do whatever he wants on a standard combo, and a lot of the times, when he's twirling, he's not dealing damage. The jump combo is the same, so damage-wise, it feels more consistent. That being said, I really don't think it does that much more damage than anything else, because the whole auto combo solution this game uses, it leads to you feeling like nothing is effective. Anyhow, I'm going to angle this grad so that I'm underneath him and protected from his friend, and I'm going to work on parrying him here to do some damage. And I'm getting the best pattern in the world right now. That quick swipe is unparryable. I don't know why, I don't agree with it, but it is. Whenever they fire missiles, if you can strafe in a direction away from them, away from the impacts of the missiles, you're usually quite safe. If you can't, it's a reset. And when you get this guy down to 10%, you've beat him. But when you parry him like that, he's dead. And now that he will be dead forever, we get to take on his friend. This is where things get scary. Because if he wants to, he will run away firing missiles, and that's the only thing he'll do. And then the worst thing he can do is when he starts firing missiles, and then he stacks it with a physical attack. And when he does that, it changes the properties of the missiles, and they become very difficult to avoid splash damage from. And all we're going to do here is attack his legs with slide attacks. And when he gives us this, we're going to attack him. Something you need to know about that cannon. Because he has his cannon and because he can fire those slow-moving missiles, if you are not under him when he leans over to shoot, the missiles can hit you from off-camera from behind. You always want to be beneath him. Right here, I'm not getting the parry because I'm nervous. If I could have parried that, I could have cut his missiles and I would have been absolutely safe from his cannon, and I would have been able to pressure him in a much more convenient manner. But this is very, very difficult. It doesn't look hard. You might watch this and think, well, that looks easy, but trust me, guys. When was the last time I told you a sequence in one of my videos took me 20 hours to do when it was this short? It's a big deal, this, guys. It's a really big deal. And as it stands, I've seen nobody on YouTube who has done it. So, to my knowledge, this is the first recorded evidence of this. And I can understand why, because it's not worth it. It's just not worth the hell. But here's this spin, we knocked him down. We're getting him really close now to the end of the fight. Couple more hits, there's the big parry. I cool down, I hit him with a riposte, and I get the fight. By far, one of the hardest things I've ever done for how frustrating and annoying it is. That is it right there. Unbelievably annoying. Thank you for watching. You take care now.